Jada Pinkett Smith is here. How you doing? Good morning.
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm glad that you're here. Many assume that you had the perfect career, that you had the perfect life. But you write that you didn't anticipate living past 40 years old. What was going on internally?
Well, I just think there was so much unresolved issues. And I probably did have the perfect life. I just couldn't see it because there was so much hurt and imperfection within me. And so, you know, I had to go in a long healing process to get to a place of joy and happiness. You know?
And you're very transparent in the book about that. Now, you have accomplished so much, like you mentioned, right? We're talking decades in this business. At times, fighting the resistance of the industry. After looking back, now do you wake up and feel worthy?
Oh, absolutely. It took me a long time to get there, you know, but like I talk about in the book, you know, when I turned 50 and I looked myself in the mirror, I was like, came through, girl. You did it.
We here.
We here.
We here.
You know? Yeah.
And you also had some revealing facts about your childhood and then the young teenage years where you were dealing drugs.
Yeah.
And you had an idea of yourself becoming a queen pin.
I wasn't good at it, but as you read in the book, you know, I got robbed several times. Yeah.
Held at gunpoint.
Yeah, several times.
Looking back at that time in your life, what stands out?
Man, I just can't even believe it. You know, it's just the Jada that I was and just growing up into that environment and what I thought it took to survive and what I thought it took to like regain a sense of worth.
Yeah.
You know, because my mom, she was an addict and, you know, I didn't know whether she was gonna make it. So I was like, I gotta figure this out for myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm out here.
You're out here.
I'm out here.
Trying to survive.
And
you did. You survived and you made it to Hollywood. You got an acting gig. You get this relationship going with Will Smith and become the it couple, the power couple, as we call #goals. And then it comes to find out back in 2016 there was a separation.
Yeah.
But what you call it was a complete transparency between you two.
Yeah.
Basically saying you can do whatever you want with whoever you want as long as we're on the same page. And you created a distinction between that and an open relationship.
Yes.
Did that work? And the next question would be, do you have any regrets?
So you're talking about 2016?
2016.
I would say that separation did work because I really feel like for myself, I needed time for emotional maturity.
Okay.
You know, really looking at, first of all, I was in a deep healing process, and I think I needed to really dissolve some false ideas of what marriage is, false ideas of what I thought Will needed to be for me versus what I needed to learn to be for myself in order to have a loving relationship.
Okay.
Right? So I had to really do some deep healing.
And there was some healing done.
Yeah.
And some would call healing in front of the world. Red Table Talk.
Yes.
Bring Will on.
Yeah.
Some understand why you would want to use your platform to talk about your relationship. You guys live out loud in public.
Right.
Others sympathize with Will. They said, this is emasculation.
Right.
This is the public execution of a man's ego.
Right.
How do you feel about people who have that perspective on that moment?
Well, I think people should understand, if you read the book, you get a better understanding of what that particular situation was. Will decided he wanted to come to the table.
Right.
And at that time, we weren't together, which I didn't talk about.
And you say Will didn't want to reveal that you weren't together.
Yeah, we didn't want to reveal that because...
Neither of you thought that it would be a blow to Will's ego? A guy who has self-admittedly said, you know, my public perception means a lot to me.
You know, that was Will's choice, you know? And so I think at that particular point in time, we were both going through a process of dissolving this idea of what a relationship should look like and really just be honest about the difficulties that come with being in a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And at that time, I decided to take the hit and untruth of being, You know,
you took a hit.
I took a hit.
blow.
You know, as being an adulterous wife, which was not true, but
the perception, because you let everybody know, oh, we're still together. That's what we thought.
Exactly.
So we didn't know any different. I'm saying we as the public.
Absolutely.
But speaking of hit, you know, the holy joke, the holy slap, holy lessons. You talk about that slap and what happened when Will Smith walked up on that stage. And you said, you know, this is his fight. I'm going to let Will fight this fight.
Yeah.
Do you still believe that should be the case when Will literally walked up on that stage and kind of fought for you in that moment?
Well, see, that's a really deep subject.
It's a deep subject for sure.
Right?
It's very layered as well.
I think you got to be really careful about the why.
The why.
Okay? So that's Will's story to tell. Now,
not yours.
Not mine. So what I will say is that being there with him that night, what I did know was that I might not have walked in there as his wife, but I left that night.
As his wife.
As his wife. And as I sit here today, I am going to be by his side
as
always.
To you.
That's right.
And as you guys live out loud, as he called it, this beautiful relationship.
This beautiful relationship.
What do you want people to take away from all of this? I mean, you give us the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, see, that's what people need to take away. It's like, listen, you know, this fantasy that relationships should be perfect, this fantasy that people should be perfect. It's like life is nuanced. Yeah. Life is complicated.
Yeah.
And what's most important is that when you have somebody with you that's willing to learn how to love, and you two are willing to learn how to love each other, ride it out.
Jada Pinkett Smith, I appreciate you. The book is out now, Worthy. We'll be right back.
Lauren Graham is here first on CBS Mornings. We like when we can say that. Welcome.
We like it when you're here. But Vlad, we should say Tony was cracking on you, Lauren. He said, the title is Have I Told You This Already? Well, since it's in paperback, yes, you have. Tony Dokoupil got joked.
Well, yes, it's born out of my habit of retelling the same story over and over. So finally, I just thought I'd write it down.
Well, so one of the things you detail in the book is you talk about what it's like working in Hollywood. And I thought this was a great line. There were questionable trends, this is quoting from your book, when you were starting out acting, that I didn't question at the time. The need for all miniskirts to be at Callista Flockhart and Ally McBeal's shortness levels, crop tops paired with jeans with low-rise waistband started maybe a millimeter above the butt crack, and the monthly ritual of getting Brazilian bikini waxes at a salon called Pink Cheeks. And then you go on to say,
woo!
Right, but then you say something interesting. You say, it occurred to me that if actor, stripper, and Playboy bunny were different jobs, why were we supposed to all have the same body type?
I mean, it was of a time when that was just the popular trend, and we weren't having some of the conversations that we are having today about sort of being the subject of these trends, and we just all kind of followed them, and things are different now, and I think better.
Yeah, you talk about the hierarchy of Hollywood and navigating that. Talk to us about that and how it's changed, if at all, because there always seems to be rules that some people don't know.
I guess it's some of the funny things I've learned along the way is that there's kind of a hierarchy for everything. I talk about in the book, I had a discount at Louis Vuitton for a while, which I didn't understand was something that could come and then be taken away. Yeah. I was invited to a fancy party, the Vanity Fair Oscars party, and my publicist at the time said, I was invited at 10 o'clock at night or something. She said, oh, that's a good time. Because I guess there are other times when you get invited to the party where it's not a good time, it's too early, it's too late. And so it's little things like that that over the years I've discovered there's kind of a language for everything in that way, and you don't know it until it's too late, because I missed that Louis Vuitton discount when I didn't appreciate it. So I don't know, it's just it's one of the parts of our business that is endlessly confounding, I think, is who's in charge and who's on the top, and I still don't know.
You know, we're all mourning the loss of Matthew Perry. We all loved him. We felt that he was our friend, but you were friends with Matthew Perry. What's your best memory of him?
Oh, boy. No one made me laugh as hard. I mean, just tears streaming. You know, there was just such joy in being around him and being his friend. And I'll say too that this last year, you know, he was so proud of the book he wrote and of how many people it touched. And it was a success that gave him a level of happiness that I hadn't seen in him for a really long time. So that's a nice memory.
And just his desire that he said that he doesn't want to be remembered for Friends, that juggernaut of a show, that he really wants to be remembered for helping people. I mean, when I got the news, it was so stunning to me. Did you feel that too?
Completely. I'm still in shock. I mean, it's just a really tragic loss, and he leaves his beautiful work behind, and that's something to be thankful for. And again, the book really meant something to him, so it was a really happy year for him.
Gilmore Girls. Fans around the world love it. When the limited series came back, I was very excited. I mean, this is a question from the fans.
You're asking on behalf of the fans?
The fan club of Vlad would like to know. The Vlad, Lauren Graham.
Of Vlad,
yes, exactly. Would like to know, will there be any more Gilmore Girls?
You can never say never, I guess, in this day and age.
Do you want to?
I love that character. I love that writing. I love how much joy it seems to bring people. I really appreciate that. It's something I'm incredibly grateful for in my life, to get that back from fans of all different generations. It seems like younger people keep finding it. Is just amazing. But
Lauren, you're one of the main people, and you know people.
You know some people.
So if you want
in the hierarchy of Hollywood.
Yes, in the very good
right?
in the hierarchy of Hollywood.
Yeah. There is not a formal discussion of doing it again. There's always that fear that you want to leave it, where it is best left. And but we didn't know we would be coming back to do those Netflix movies, so you really never know. But there isn't a formal conversation.
Well, now that the strike is over, aren't you just glad to be able to be out working again?
I am. It was such a tough time for everybody, and I'm also doing these book tour dates, and had the strike not lifted, I would not be allowed to talk about any of my projects
We're so excited
as an actor.
that you were able to do
So
that.
that would have been an interesting obstacle.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. We're glad we're able to talk to you about all your projects, and this book is incredible. I told her I was laughing when I was reading the book. The paperback version.
I wonder what her friends say, though, Vlad.
Well, she names her friends.
friends.
They have pseudonyms in here, but you got to read the book. It's called Have I Told You This Already? It's on sale right now.
Actor Mark Harmon is here. He's best known for playing Special Agent Gibbs on, CBS hit show NCIS.
You know the ramifications of tampering with evidence?
What are you talking about?
Belonged to Monica Bishop. Victim number 3. You forget?
Nobody knows this case better than me, Gibbs.
Well, I'm guessing you knew Monica more than a little bit. That why you tore the page out of this with your name and address on it?
Your name and address on it. To prepare for scenes in the interrogation room, Harmon worked with a real-life former NCIS special agent. His name is Leon Carroll Jr. Thank you very much. Carroll has been the show's technical advisor for 20 years, so he knows his stuff. Now the two have teamed up to write Ghost of Honolulu, a Japanese spy, a Japanese-American spy, Hunter and the Untold Story of Pearl Harbor. This is a nonfiction story of a naval intelligence officer whose service helped lead to the birth of the modern NCIS that we know today. And we welcome you both. Thank you both. Mark and Leon. Mark, you start us off because we were talking in the green room and you said about Leon, he is the...
Well, he's my guy, but he is the guy. He's the real thing. Gayle.
He's the real deal. And
I'm the actor.
And Leon, what did you say about him?
I said Mark is the real thing, too. He's the R-E-E-L.
Yeah, so we got a reel and a reel. I like that. But your book is about the story of Douglas Wada, who is a real deal, a Japanese-American spy. Why did you think we should know about him and know his story?
He's the first, Gayle. We talked about an idea of this show originally was based on real stories, and that changes over time, obviously, with the success of the show, which has been great. They came with an idea of doing a book. It was a very different idea. I first said I wouldn't touch that idea without Leon Carroll, because he was my guy every day on this show for 19 years. And he's someone who did the job for real. So the difference between me as an actor and him as a real special agent He's also a Marine.
Yeah.
So for a guy like me who's playing a character that is an NCIS agent and a Marine, he was a gold mine every day for me.
So you relied on him. Yes.
Leon, what are some of the things that, in your role as technical director, you tried to make sure NCIS got right?
It's a good question.
It is a good one. And it's technical advisor. Sorry, Tony.
Advisor.
But I don't want to. Director, I'd have to get paid a little bit.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you got me on a technicality.
Yes.
But anyway, what I do is try to help the actors, directors, and everybody in the crew that makes the show such a success, make it more realistic. I like watching shows that are real, have some real element, but still have entertainment value in it. So I'm working with the writers. I work with actors all the time, and Mark was a pleasure to work with.
Was he a pleasure? He wasn't a difficult student?
He was not a difficult student.
But Tony...
He would seek the teacher out quite often.
But you know what, Tony, this is funny because Leon said words to me that I've never heard my entire life.
What's that?
I like interrogation. And I said, do you? And he said it just like that. I like interrogation. And I said, what do you like about interrogation? And what did you say, Leon Carroll Jr.?
Well, first I said, Gayle, you've interrogated me and you've done a really good job. And you're continuing on. But no, I like the challenge of being one-on-one with someone in what we call the interrogation room or I room. On some shows they call it the box. And it's just a way of really being challenged, and to get someone to realize that maybe they've done something wrong and they should tell you about it.
Oh, they know they've done something wrong. They don't want to tell you about it.
Yeah, you're right about that. Now, Mark, you've been off NCIS for nearly 2 years, but you're still an executive producer. Do you think that we'll get an update from Agent Gibbs anytime soon? Do you still got that urge? Because we do. We want to see
Look at that smile.
You gonna play again?
Got me there.
But he didn't answer your question.
I got about 5 more touchdowns in me, so you got about 5 more episodes?
He didn't answer your question.
No, I probably have 5 more touchdowns in me. No, I don't know. Look, this is an interesting, job, and I feel gifted to have been part of that show as long as I was, and that show is continuing to be the success that it is, all those things. And this guy's part of that.
Yeah.
But you know what, guys? I don't think many people even knew this was a real thing, that NCIS.
That's right.
For most of us.
That's a good point, Gayle.
A lot of people just thought it was a TV show, Mark, Leon.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
And I spent,
You too?
Well, yeah.
I spent the first couple of years just trying to educate our crew that there really was. We had NCIS on the back of the director's chairs, and they thought that was a made-up acronym. So.
Wow.
Yes.
Have agents that gone into the service, gone into NCIS because they saw the show as kids? It's been on for 20 years. You could have people who...
I can answer that one, because in the beginning, they used to have to recruit at colleges and stuff to get people to come to them. But because of a TV show, they don't have to recruit anymore.
Wow.
Wow.
It's a testament to what the show is.
Right.
TV show.
TV show. Something tells me Agent Gibbs might be coming back, Nate.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. Yeah.
Look at that smile. Still got the blue eyes. Look at that smile.
I'm looking at you, Gayle.
Yeah. Thank you both, Leon Carroll
Yes.
Jr. I like interrogation.
Yeah.
Coleman Domingo stopped by our studio earlier this week to talk with us and Gayle about the role.
Thank God the actor strike is over, that you could be sitting in
That's
the chair.
right.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
Oh,
Happy
we
to
are
have
too.
you.
We are
Thank
too.
Thank you.
But let's talk about Rustin, because most people, myself included, didn't really know who he was, Coleman. I'd heard the name, but if it said, what does he do? I'd go, So how did you know about him?
Listen, I didn't discover about Rustin until maybe junior year of college at Temple University. I joined the African American Student Union, and I think in a conversation his name came up. The fact that he was a Quaker, he was from Westchester, Pennsylvania, he was openly gay, but also that he organized the March on Washington.
And that's the thing. I think most people didn't even think about what it would take to organize this march.
And who did it?
And who did it, yes.
Exactly,
who
and
did
it was by Rustin, an unsung hero. And I think he was marginalized in the history books because I think he wasn't the face of the movement in a way. And so, but he was very much considered the most incredible organizer in critical mind. He pulled this off in 7 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Not only him, but also his band of angelic troublemakers who worked with him.
It's sort of like Good Trouble, what John Lewis used to say.
That good trouble we're all looking for. And speaking of pulling it off, you pulled it off brilliantly. And it wasn't just trying to embody the role, you embodied the man. Because you have his mannerisms, even the smoking of the cigarettes. And what type of research did you do to get into this role?
I spent about 5 months just delving into his writings, whatever documentary footage I could find, his vocal patterns. And so you take all that in, but then you need to fuel it with, you try to get his spirit.
Yeah.
How old was Byard?
He was 51 years old.
And how old were you when you were shooting this movie, Mr. Domingo?
I just found out that I was 51 years old when I was shooting this movie.
There's something poetic about that.
Yes.
It's wild. I didn't know that, and it's incredible. And so I worked hard to make sure that I was just trying to get the spirit of this guy because he was always very charismatic. It's important not to mimic someone, but try to get a sense of their whole spirit and how they can inspire young people and to create this movement.
That's beautiful. It's a subtle difference, but acting is not mimicry, it's embodying, and that's a world of difference. Michelle Obama and Barack Obama are executive producers of this.
Yeah.
You're getting feedback from them.
Oh, yeah.
What's that like?
What's that like?
You take it. You take it well. Because they're the smartest people on the planet. But also, Barack Obama gave Byard Rustin the Presidential Medal of Freedom, actually, posthumously. And so, which is the highest honor you can give.
Yeah.
He also said there'd be no Barack Obama if there was no Byard Rustin, because he was a critical thinker and a great organizer.
What does it mean to you to have the movie, it's called Rustin and You Are Rustin, at this stage in your career?
It's breathtaking. I've been doing this work for a good 32 years. Started out in regional theaters and off-Broadway, you name it, and I'm a journeyman.
Yeah.
And then at some point, this role and I meet each other at this incredible time when I think we need a film like this. I know that I could lead a film like this that's about change and inspiring people to have hope again.
And if all goes according to my plan and the world according to Gayle, you're also playing Mr. in Color Purple, which is coming out Christmas Day. I've already seen that, and you are knockout in that. If all goes according to plan, you could conceivably have not one, but 2 Oscar nominations in the same friggin' year. Let's talk about that. Don't laugh. Let's talk about that. Let's put it out there.
Fantastic.
Yes. Let's put it out there.
I mean, who knows? How beautiful would that be? These are 2 films that I'm so proud of.
Yeah.
I'm proud of the way they were made and created.
You're playing the role of Mr.
And I'm playing the role of Mr., which I'm glad that Rustin's coming out first. So hopefully there's enough love and generosity stored up for the things that I'm going to have to do.
Because Mr's not exactly likable.
No, he's not exactly likable, but we work to find that part of the story where we understand that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah. It's such an iconic film. And oftentimes people say, you don't mess with the classics. But the buzz we are hearing about this film is that it is a great compliment to the original.
Yeah.
What is it like to be one of the faces that is following up on The Color Purple?
Feels like you're part of a great legacy. Truly.
There it is.
You feel like, I think Oprah said this to us, actually. She said that everyone that touches and is a part of a production based on Alice Walker's incredible family, you're blessed. You feel like you're part of something generationally. And so the idea that I get to be a part of this, it's visually stimulating. It really does open up Celie's imagination to understand that her imagination is what gets her over her trauma. And so it's fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait for people to see that too. And Oprah, of course, is one of the executive producers. In addition to that, your spare time, you've won an Emmy being on Euphoria. So I'm thinking you're having, we always say living your best life. You seem to be doing that right.
He's having a moment, Gayle.
Yeah.
I'm having a nice time. I'm having a real good moment. I'm just filled with gratitude. I love that I get to do what I do. I love my work.
Yeah.
And I love the people that I get to work with. I feel like I'm very super blessed.
Coleman, you deserve it.
Fantastic.
Cheering you on, Coleman Domingo, always.
Thank you.
Congrats.
In a new novel inspired by true and terrible events, best-selling author Mitch Albom is shedding additional light on one of humanity's darkest chapters. The book is called The Little Liar, and it tells the story of 3 Jewish children whose lives are forever connected and also changed by the Holocaust. It's set during World War II in the Greek city of Salonika, which had the highest percentage Jewish population of all the cities the Nazis destroyed. And Mitch Albom joins us now. Mitch, that little fact at the end, I had no idea, right? So this is a majority Jewish city in World War II. It wasn't by the end of World War II. When you learned about it, what made you want to go from hearing about it to writing about it?
Well, because I wanted to show that it wasn't because the Nazis had bigger guns they had bigger lies. And I wanted to tell a story about lies and truth. And it follows an 11-year-old boy who's never told a lie in his life. When the Nazis come to Salonika, they find this out, and they kidnap him, and they decide to use him as a weapon. They say, stand on the railroad tracks and tell everybody that they're going to good places and good homes, and then you can go back to your family. Wow. And being a trusting child, he does what they tell him until the last train goes out and he sees his family being put on it. And he realizes he's told this lie, and it follows him for the next 40 years. The ramifications of that lie is he tries to seek forgiveness from his family and the people he loved.
It follows him, but the narrator is not him, right? The narrator is truth. Sort of this disembodied voice. There is a body attached. It's kind of the surprise in the book. I don't want to give it away. How did you come up with that device?
Because we live in a time, I think, where we're choosing our truths, you know? And we choose what news we're going to watch. We choose what we're going to listen to and not. And I thought this is a really important topic for our time, as well as a good topic for a novel. So if I have the voice of truth saying, what are you doing? Why are you breaking me like that? You know, it would be more effective than just doing it as a third person.
Mitch, you know, to that point, you say this book is a warning about what could happen when people don't value truth, when truth isn't imperative. But, you know, at a time, I mean, throughout all of time, but especially right now, where people have different versions of the truth.
Yeah.
How do they stay true to the truth when there's disagreement?
Well, you know, you have to search. You got to take a lot of sources, I think, and take everything with a grain of salt and do your homework, you know. But it's also about lies. And I like to ask people in my books of questions, and in this one, I think it would be, what's the biggest lie you ever told, and what would you do to be forgiven from that lie? Because Nico, the little boy, spends his whole life trying to seek forgiveness, and the girl who loved him when she was a little girl spends her whole life trying to find him, because he becomes this reclusive person who changes his name and everything because she wants to forgive him. So it's the power of forgiveness as well.
Yeah, this isn't a history book, but the events definitely mirror what has happened in the past. And we are in a current state where we see a rise in anti-Semitism in this country and around the world. Yeah. Do you see, after doing your research before writing this, some parallels between what has happened in the past and what is happening now?
Yeah, well, Nate, I always feel the Holocaust should never be compared to something because it was so singular, but it should be a warning for things. I grew up in a neighborhood where an older Jewish couple that lived right next to us wore long sleeves all the time. And I asked my mother, why did they wear long sleeves? Well, they have these numbers on their wrists they don't want people to see. Well, many of those people are gone now. Most of them are gone now, and they're not here to tell the story. And if we don't remind people what happened, it's possible to repeat it.
On the subject of reminding, you remain hopeful. At least I read that anyway in these notes. Are you hopeful?
I'm always hopeful. I've been teased, I've been called the king of hope by a critic who wanted to make fun of me. But this book is hopeful too. There's even a scene when it doesn't take place in the concentration camps, all the book. It follows 40 years, but there is a scene in the concentration camps where the prisoners, at the end of the day, sit together and try to think of one good thing that happened during the course of the day. They had an extra thing of soup. Their rotted tooth fell out. They saw a bird. And that's man's desire for hope. And hope runs throughout this book. And hope is ultimately the thing that saves Nico.
Okay, and last thing before we got to go. Do you have hope for the Lions?
Hope? I heard on your network Tony Romo say that they could win the Super Bowl. Our heads just exploded.
They're doing incredibly well. Yeah.
Go Lions. Mitch, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Book.
Great to have you here.
Allie Webb went from a stay-at-home mom to a high-profile businesswoman with A-list celebrity clients when she co-founded the hair salon company you all know at Dry Bar back in 2009. This thing took off like a rocket. It eventually grew to more than 150 locations nationwide. She sold the company in 2019 for more than $255 million. Thank you very much. But Webb says that as her career was skyrocketing, she was struggling behind the scenes, and now she's telling her story. And the lesson she learned in her new book, it's called The Messy Truth, How I Sold My Business for Millions But Almost Lost Myself. Allie Webb joins us now. Allie, thank you so much for coming. Number one, The Messy Truth, I think, is a perfect title because it really was a mess in your life. and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but you write about 2 divorces, you write about a troubled child that you had, you write about how the business didn't go well, and the mistakes you learned along the way. One of my favorite chapters is Balance is BS, except you say the real word. No one starts a successful business. You start a business and make it successful. Balance, you said, not worth it, not real, not worth pursuing. And you're welcome. I just saved you a lot of money. Why do you say that? Because we're all struggling. Balance, 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 balance. Why do you say that?
Well, I think it's this unattainable reality, and it just, in my experience, it doesn't exist. It's like some days it all works out, and you get to your kid's game, and you finish the thing at work. But most days that's not a reality. It's like you're kind of, I feel like life is like a big game of whack-a-mole. It's like, there's kind of always something going on wherever you go. And the pressure we put on ourselves, especially as women, to like do all the things all the time is just so unrealistic that I'm like, let's just dispel that.
So
it's not real.
But how did it go so off the rails for you? Because here you're on the cover of all these magazines. Your business is a huge, huge success. Your children are struggling. Your marriage is struggling. How did it go so off the rails for you?
Well, I think I was so uber focused on the business. And, my first husband, Cameron, I met him when I was living in New York City.
You said I met him in Hell. That was the name of the bar we all met.
Literally met in a bar named Hell 20 years ago in New York. And, we were really young, and it was not the right thing ultimately. We were best friends, and it was a great, beautiful friendship. But it was the writing was on the wall really the whole time, but, we just kind of...
Both of you thought this is a mistake, but you still got married.
Yeah,
okay.
It was like we were kids, and like we just didn't know. And but we made these two beautiful boys, and we started Dry Bar, and it was just like my life was like boom, 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 moving so fast. And once Dry Bar came along and it was this massive success, I was just so distracted with that. And I was on this rocket ship, and it was so exhilarating and intoxicating and, growing this business. But, there was things I wasn't paying attention to in my personal life, which I think we all do.
Of course.
When we're really distracted over here with something really great. And, I just wasn't paying attention to what was happening.
Gayle talked about the glitz and the glamour, being on the magazines, and it seemed like life is going well. And I love how you start off the book. It's like a movie. You cut right to it. It grabs you right out the gate. You say, listen, here's the things that you're going to deal with. And you put a line in there on the second page. You're going to deal with some deep, dark-ish.
Yes.
And you went through some dark moments.
Yeah.
You felt depression.
Yeah.
How did you get out of that space?
Well, I think, the drive that I have just naturally, I think I'm such a driven person, hence this, massive company that we built. And I think the same applies to my personal life. Like, I just was like, I don't want to be in this sad, depressed place anymore. I felt like I needed to let myself grieve, and there were things that were, hard that I needed time to get through. But I was like, okay, I'm a seeker. I want to go figure out what to do next, like
so
meditation,
you were working.
therapy. Yeah, I was.
How do you work on yourself while you're staying busy?
Well, you gotta find the time, and I think that was what I wasn't doing for most of my career. Like, I wasn't taking the time for myself. Like, so many of us don't. We're so busy, and we're so exciting, and like, go, 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 go. And now on this new season, this flip side of my life, I'm like, oh, I gotta put in the work, like, do the things, take time for myself, meditate, go to therapy, go to retreats. I mean, now I do it all. There's not anything I haven't tried. I especially love this episode.
That's good.
Yeah, because, you just have to take the time for yourself, which I just didn't do. I was just on, like, go, go, go. And it can be really dangerous.
Wow. There's just so much in this book. I mean, we didn't even get into the sections about, which I really appreciated, about your older son in high school, going through rehab, guiding him through that, the wisdom that you as a parent take away from that. And I am curious, so how is the relationship today with your son?
It's amazing, and it was always amazing. And then we went off track a little bit, and he was having a really hard time communicating what was happening for him, and there was just so much change, and just so much upheaval. And as hard as it was, the almost 2 years he spent in rehab and recovery.
But I think it's important in less than 15 seconds to know that you and your son are okay.
Yes.
And this is a great book for people. There is a whole other side.
He did the work.
Poet, painter, and author, that would be Freeda Hughes, whose parents were acclaimed writers Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath, has lived a life haunted by loss. But in Wales, she says she built the home she longed for as a little girl, an unexpected oasis where she has found stability and she's found purpose. And she told Anthony Mason it was a chance encounter with a bird. Yes, a bird that changed everything.
It's beautiful, this gate.
Thank you.
When Freeda Hughes moved out into the Welsh countryside, she planned to paint, write poetry, and plant a garden.
A lot of it needs culling. The lilies have gone mad.
But she didn't expect to be adding an aviary.
Say hello.
It's where she keeps her growing family of rescued owls.
You have how many of now?
15.
15 owls.
Yeah, I didn't mean to have 15 owls, and I never intended to have owls.
They include Merlin, Eddie, brothers Charlie and Max, and Widfa, a snowy owl with a damaged wing. But the bird who started it all wasn't an owl. It was George.
I was so smitten with this magpie.
Why?
It's very hard to resist a creature that makes you the center of their life and their attention.
Mm-hmm.
Hughes' latest book, George, a magpie memoir, chronicles her relationship with the bird, who fell from his nest during a storm in 2007. Hughes nursed George back to health.
Everything I did, I'd be cooking, I'd be painting, I'd be writing, George was there. After 2 months, George started to fly properly. He could make the end of the room. Go and get it. And he would always fly back to me. There's something really magical when a bird just flies back to you. Not because you're saying, look, you're starving, I've got food. But just because you're you. That's really bewitching.
George was a mischievous magpie.
I'd be sketching him and then he'd fly over, land on the page and be trying to pull the lines off as if they were three-dimensional.
He also liked to play with peas.
He'd pick them up and he'd pace around you, find a gap or a pocket or in the cuff of your sleeve, and he'd start stuffing peas in there. And then he'd look at you saying, okay, now react. So do something, play with me.
Hi there, George, you want to play?
Did you need George in some way?
There's a very good question. Yeah, I think I probably did.
Her marriage was unraveling at the time. But every conversation with Hughes ultimately goes back to her childhood and to her parents.
My father being Ted Hughes and my mother being Sylvia Plath, it was don't talk to your friends at school about the family.
Renowned poets Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath were a literary it couple when in 1963, Plath died by suicide. Young Freeda, who was 2, learned to keep secrets as a child.
Because of my mother dying the way she died, it was my job to be the happy, very level person. And so my secret was often, don't tell anybody when you feel bad.
Why do you think you felt like you needed to be that way?
You know that thing about rescuing animals?
Yes.
I kind of want to save people too, and sometimes from me.
Yeah.
So, I didn't want to be a burden.
That's a lot to carry.
Yeah. As a child, I was very conscious of my father having a tough time.
Her restless father moved constantly. Wherever he went, Hughes writes, my younger brother Nick and I followed like 2 trailing limbs. Hughes attended a dozen different schools. Her father asked her once if she was angry her mother had taken her own life.
I said, how could I be angry? Because she was in so much mental anguish that she felt she had to go. Why would I be angry with her?
That she left you behind.
Well, I'm very glad she didn't take me with her.
I mean, in any way, do you think you've been trying to work that out?
There's only an understanding that it happened and I have to accept it one way or the other. Right. It's how I accept it that is going to affect the way I move on in my life in the future.
Hughes' father died from a heart attack 25 years ago. Her brother would also die by suicide in 2009.
I have bad moments, I have sad moments, and then it is a case of, if I don't pull myself together, who's going to do everything?
Hughes' home in Wales is her antidote to her itinerant childhood, a safe place where she has put down roots.
The tree is spectacular.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's been here for over 250 years. I sort of built the garden around the tree because this was just a field when I came here.
Her house is also her art gallery.
I'm really enjoying doing the rocks at the moment. I love the rocks.
Painting for Hughes is more than therapy.
It's a necessity.
It's a necessity. How?
I don't want to go from the beginning of one year to another without having something physical to show that I actually lived during that year. That's one of my old frames.
If Freeda Hughes seems full of surprises, there's still one more. The woman who raises owls and writes poetry also races motorbikes.
I live among some of the best roads in Great Britain.
There's some pretty scary curves out here, though.
That's why they're lovely roads. You don't want a straight line. Anybody can go in a straight line.
She's the streak that flies through the Welsh countryside. A rider who has learned how to take some of life's trickiest turns.
I feel that I want to live with all the energy that I can muster to the best of my ability, because somebody in my family has to be left to do that. And I think by doing that and doing the best that I can, I honor them.
And Raquel Willis joins us now. Raquel, thank you for being here.
Yes. Thank you for having me back.
So the title is The Risk It Takes to Bloom, but you write in the book about having to bloom again and again and again. Explain to people what you mean by that.
Yes, well, I think for me as a Black trans woman coming from the South, someone who embarked on a journalism career and activism career, it's required a lot of moments where I've had to take the risk to shatter expectations and to allow myself to move through maybe difficult moments to emerge on the other side, hopefully more brilliant than ever before.
Yeah, brilliant is a word. You look fantastic, Raquel.
Thank you.
But you write as a little kid, you tried to pray the queerness away. You came out to your family as a gay boy at the time, and it did not go well when you first told certain members of the family.
Yeah, I mean, my dad had a bombastic reaction.
He broke a chair. Yeah.
He broke a chair. Yeah. There was a whole moment. But my parents were devout Catholics. Yes. So we were also dealing with religion, but we were also dealing with the expectations of Black masculinity in the South. And I think oftentimes there isn't enough space to understand the other, to understand that there's gender variance out there.
I know, and then talking about blooming, so you go from I'm a gay person, a gay man, gay boy, to no, I don't think that's what I am at all. I'm actually want to be a woman. Talk about that transformation, because you really had to evolve yourself trying to think, what is happening to me? Who am I really?
Absolutely. Well, I first found community online. I mean, in the wilderness of the early 2000s internet, if you can believe it. But then at the University of Georgia as a journalism student, I found other LGBTQ+ folks for the first time. And that was an opportunity for me to connect with others, to share and compare notes from other people all over Georgia and the South. So it was community that was really a gateway for me to fully start to embrace myself. And my first relationship as well, my first romance.
Yes.
You say that you're constantly doing work, and that looks like loving each and every version of yourself. I love that, because nowadays people try to forget who they were. And they present this image, whether it's on social media or in real life. This is who I am now. But why is that important, to love each version of who you were and are?
Absolutely. Well, I think when I first came into my trans identity some 12 or so years ago, it was a time where trans folks were kind of expected to bury our histories. You know, this idea that we had to run away from our truths. And when I started as a journalist, I didn't know that I could have a career being open as queer or trans or anything. And so in my first job in small town Georgia, I was in the closet. I did not tell
anybody,
nary a soul, until the later part of my tenure there. And I really wanted to build a career where folks could be themselves fully.
Can I ask about being fully yourself and openness? Because there's this amazing Gallup poll from June of this year, so just recently, that asked people whether they believe it is morally acceptable or morally wrong to change one's gender. That's the language of the question. Most people said morally wrong to do what you do, to live as you're living. What do you do when you encounter that in the world?
Well, it's not so much changing. I feel like I'm becoming more and more of who I've always been, more of my essence. It's really just, again, a blooming and emerging of what was already there. I think this idea that people change genders is reductive, and it doesn't take into consideration all of the nuances of our lives. But I think also when I consider cisgender people, that is people who are not trans, I think that there's a lot of blooming that can happen on that side. So when it comes to being trans, I hope people take away from my story that they can also shatter their own expectations.
I was going to say, isn't it about changing people's expectations? That people need to understand that this is a reality and this is a truth, and you might not understand it, but it is a reality.
It's loosening those boxes that are too small, really, for all of us.
We are all blooming.
We're all blooming. I think about the boys and the men who are told they can't cry, they can't like the color pink. I think about the girls and the women who are told they can't be strong, brilliant, capable leaders, can't play sports. That's all connected in how gender often fails us because we set these expectations on folks that don't fit.
And the more you talk, that's why people need to understand, because trans violence is a real issue and it's a real problem. And that's also something that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Raquel Willis, thank you very much for being here.
Our next guest is a self-made global entrepreneur. Trisha Bailey started from humble beginnings in rural Jamaica and has amassed a net worth of nearly $1 billion. She turned a small medical supply business into an empire that includes 46 pharmacies across the U.S. And she has ownership stakes in 3 NBA teams. Her new memoir is Unbroken, the triumphant story of a woman's journey. She writes about overcoming sexual abuse and domestic violence along the way to becoming who she is now. Trisha Bailey, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
So let's start after college. You became a stockbroker. And you write that hard work and dedication did not go unnoticed. How did that job put you on the path to where you are today?
Well, it built my foundation of financial literacy. I already had the discipline from my childhood. So being a stockbroker, I was able to build my company within the organization of Solomon Smith Barney, which is Dean Wither now. So having that financial literacy embarked me into an amazing trajectory because I was able to invest the money that I have saved.
Now, entrepreneurship doesn't come easy, especially as a woman of color. Did you recognize those obstacles right away, and how did that impact you?
Yes. In every stage of entrepreneurship, there's hardship. And at the start is the greatest hardship. So because I had the discipline, I was working 20 hours a day. I was giving it everything I had. Because I knew that's the only way that I would actually truly be successful in becoming a successful entrepreneur. So the financial literacy in touch with the work discipline launched me to where I am today.
Yeah, and by 30, you started your own medical equipment and supply company. And you write about almost this light bulb moment. When was that moment where you realized, you know what, I need to go off on my own?
Well, I had an experience with a manager, and I was promoted and given all the accolades in the company that you can have. And when I got to the promotion in California, he did not interview me, so he didn't know I was Black. And when I got there, he said, I didn't know you were Black. And I said, yeah, didn't think anything of it. And he started disapproving all the things that he previously approved.
Wow.
And at that moment, I said, I need to do my own thing. I have all these degrees. Why am I working for someone?
Yeah. Now, let's walk it back to some of your earlier days. There's some trauma that has happened in your life.
Yeah.
You talk about abuse as a child and even in some of your relationships. What was it like going through that at that time?
I had to create my own yes. I had to create my own path because...
What do you mean by that, create my own yes?
Create my own yes. I had to strategize how to get away from my home because my home was the most unsafe place for me. So as a child walking home from school, I would cry because I didn't want to be home because my stepfather was the monster that was lurking and waiting. So I had to figure out how to get away and not be home. And so as a result, I started doing sports so I could be away from the house as much as I possibly can. And it's the thing that started, it was my first level of success was in track and field.
And that was almost an outlet for you. You know, I don't want to spend too much time on those dark moments, but you reached out to your mom and you didn't get the type of validation or the ear or the shoulder to cry on that you wanted. How did that shape the parent that you are?
Well, I saw what I will never become. And I wanted to be able to be there for my children. I have 5 of them. And I wanted to be able to support them in all dimensions of their lives, to give them the love and the care and the guidance and the structure that they needed to be successful individual. And I can happily say I am an amazing mom.
Yeah, you definitely are, and there's the babies right there. You know, as you navigated through all of these experiences, you have also talked about mental health struggles and even thoughts of suicide and how therapy has helped you. You're an advocate of therapy.
I am a huge advocate
Why?
of therapy because it has changed my life. Finally, I'm able to see the entire light in the room versus one speck of a light. So I went through what's called EMDR therapy. I did 10 years of talk therapy, it worked. And then EMDR therapy was really the caveat that really helped me to release the burden off my shoulder and to be able to share my story in the book with the world so that I can help the world heal as well.
Yeah, there is healing in this book, and we have to get going. But one bit of advice to soon-to-be entrepreneurs that are scared to take that leap.
I would say be disciplined and structured in the things that you're doing. Make sure you understand financial literacy so that you can embark on the world and this journey. And your first employee should be a salesperson.
There you go. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. Trisha Bailey. Unbroken is available now on Amazon. And if you are someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, you can get help from the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by calling or texting 988. The Lifeline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.